All right, Will, we're finally here. We finally are starting our Tales of the Wrestling History Book segments. This is where we're going to go each week, talk about events that happen in professional wrestling. Quick chitter chatter about it, and we're going to dive more into detail here instead of on the podcast. So, first off, Will, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Dude, I'm excited. We've been talking about doing this sort of project for months now, if I remember correctly. Like, we have been preparing for this, and I'm glad the day is finally here.
Yeah, we've been talking about it for a while. So we thought we would start with Crown Jewel 2019 because 1 week from today is Crown Jewel 2025.
Well, it's Night of
Night of
Champions.
Champions.
No, but still, it's still a sweet Saudi money show, so it doesn't really matter. Crown Jewel's now in, I believe, Australia, if I remember correctly.
That's right. They did move it to Australia. So 1 week from today, they're going back to Saudi Arabia for Night of Champions. It's got to be better than the 2019 Crown Jewel.
2019 Crown Jewel event was absolutely terrible. I'm rewatching the show because I actually watched it. Like, the matches were not good. Like, the only good match was the Bray Wyatt Seth Rollins match, and maybe the you could probably throw in Mansoor versus Cesaro. I thought that was a really enjoyable match, but besides that, the entire show was awful. And the three matches that I remember the most, because they made it as historical, was that Cain Velasquez match, the Tyson Fury match, which was awful, and Natalya versus Lacey Evans was the first women's wrestling match that happened in Saudi Arabia.
Lacey Evans will always be a what if for me.
Oh, she got called up way too early on the main roster. She really did. And I don't understand why they didn't, because side note with Lacey Evans, was a part of, I believe, was it the Army or the military? I can't remember.
I want to say it was the Army.
Yeah, and they booked her in this old Shady Belle type of gimmick, like an old school gimmick. And remember when they tried to make her into the veteran face, and she got in a lot of heat with Sergeant Slaughter, and they canceled the whole thing. It was a disaster. And like, Lacey Evans' peak, the thing I remember her the most was, remember when Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch, that whole love thing, went, they put that on television and they had the match with Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans. Oh, that was the most memorable thing I can think of.
By the way, she was a United States Marine.
Yes. Okay, good. Yeah. And I honestly, her match at Crown Jewel was probably her biggest accomplishment in the company, because I don't think she ever held a title.
No, my most memorable moment with Lacey Evans is when her daughter was around. I can't remember who she was feuding with at the time, but they were getting into a fight with Lacey, and her daughter did not like it. It might have been Bailey.
I think it might have been Bailey. I can't remember, to be honest with you. But what do you think about her Crown Jewel match with Natalya? I didn't think it was that great.
No, overall the match was boring, but it was historical. It was the first time two women had ever been allowed to compete in Saudi Arabia. It's still not something that happens very often outside of the WWE.
Yeah, and I'm glad they got that reign. But I'll tell you what else was weird. Whole Team Hogan versus Team Flair. This was obviously a match that was ordered by the Prince.
That whole card was horrible.
Oh, it was so bad. And they had I'm going through the card right now. They threw away Kofi Kingston's title reign just so that they could get Cain Velasquez over in WWE. That didn't work out.
No.
Velasquez had his match on this show. It was so terrible. Oh my god. It was a 2-minute match. Kane could barely do anything.
Another match, the OC defeated the Viking Raiders for the WWE Tag Team World Cup.
Like the World Cup. I keep forgetting the World Cup is a thing, and was a thing in these Saudi shows.
I don't know that we've seen it defended since.
I don't think so either. Maybe when Shane McMahon was quote unquote the best in the world, if you want to throw that in there, but I can't remember. But thank God for that. Thank God for that Fiend versus Seth Rollins match. That was the only great part of the show. But the weird part was about that match was they had the stipulation, like the tagline, match can't be stopped for any reason after the Hell in a Cell fiasco that year, where the match ended in a disqualification. Vince McMahon booking, everybody. Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Then we had Mansoor defeated Cesaro.
That was a good match. I liked that.
Humberto defeated Eric Rowan.
Who cares?
In the 20-man battle royal.
Yeah, it was a battle royal. I mean, like, who cares? It was on the pre-show. This was during a time when Humberto Carrillo, at the time I called him Humblando Carrillo because he was such a bland professional wrestler. But yeah, that was the card. We just wanted to get through it. But this show was, and the reason why we're here today is often remembered for one thing, and that's what happened after the show was over. And this was crazy, and you could legit do a Dark Side of the Ring episode on the Crown Jewel 2019 Tarmac Fiasco. Do you want me to take the reins on the explanation, Will?
Yeah.
Okay, so what happened was after the Crown Jewel show was over, everyone was going to be flying back home to do Monday Night Raw. Well, for some reason, there was like travel delays that were going on there. You know, and a lot of the locker room was on the plane via the tarmac. They weren't getting taken off. They said it was a plane issue. However, that's not the true story. Apparently, Vince McMahon and the Saudi Arabia prince or whoever was in charge of their sports program were negotiating like pay. Like there was a problem with the pay issue. And because that wasn't solved, Saudi Arabia basically held the WWE locker room as hostage in the plane. And I think the damning thing, too, about this was Vince McMahon went on his private jet with a few people. I'm trying to find out who. Oh, here it is. He put
Lesnar, Triple H.
Yeah, Lesnar, Triple H, Paul Heyman, Ric Flair, Tyson Fury, and Kevin Dunn were on that private flight. They left their crew behind. Like their crew, they didn't know what was going on with their crew in Saudi Arabia. They were being held hostage, but they flew on their private plane. They're like, we got a show on Raw to film. We'll figure this out later.
You know what I just realized?
What?
Several of the people we just named are also named in the Janelle Grant lawsuit. So he's like, no way in hell I'm leaving you behind.
Well, Hulk's not in it. Ric Flair's not in it. Tyson Fury's not in it. Paul Heyman's in it, but other people like Vince McMahon, Brock Lesnar, Kevin Dunn, Michael P.S. Hayes, maybe they're on it. So
Triple H isn't in it, but he knows.
He knew, and I often think about. Do you think like he was trying to protect like his inner circle in doing that move?
Yeah,
terrifying too, and. Yeah, actually, it wasn't Monday Night Raw. It was the following night's Friday Night SmackDown. It was being held in Buffalo, New York. My mistake. I'm correcting myself there. But this resulted in a lot of NXT stars being used for that show because everyone was at Saudi Arabia and they weren't coming home at a proper time. And it was such a mess, man. It was also crazy, too, that... I think Kevin Owens, he didn't go to Saudi Arabia at the time because Sammy didn't go and he didn't feel comfortable going. So we saw a lot of Kevin Owens there. But yeah, it was a crazy time because nobody knew what was going on. We didn't know what the update was with the professional wrestlers. They were being held hostage there. And the superstars themselves still don't know to this day what happened. They were just constantly told it was a mechanical issue. But if it was a mechanical issue, they would have been back. They would have gotten a new plan, and they didn't even get on the new plan.
They later said they didn't buy it as a mechanical issue because if it was a mechanical issue, there wouldn't have been need for military police from Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, exactly. Or they would have gotten a newly fresh plane at the time. And it's just so super shady what happened there. And I do wonder to myself, like, how bad must those money issues have been where Vince McMahon and Saudi were butting heads over like pay? How bad were those conversations to the point where the Saudi prince or whoever was in charge of their sports program decided, you know what, I'll pull a power play. We're going to hold your talent hostage. Like, it's terrifying.
I later heard it was over $60 million.
$60 million? Well, that wouldn't surprise me. I mean, WWE makes a boatload of money. There's a reason why I call it Sweet Saudi money, and I got that. Fun fact, I actually got the term Sweet Saudi money from my favorite wrestling podcaster and YouTuber, Solomonster. I just thought that's great, and it's perfect to describe these shows. They're Sweet Saudi money because WWE gets sweet money from just going to Saudi Arabia, and they ignore terrifying stuff that they do ethically, and them basically taking their talent away from them. They ignore all that just so that they could get a buck. Like, I get, like, in business your goal is to make money, but when your talent's being held hostage, that's kind of a problem. And maybe something that you're going too far in doing.
So the weird thing is the plane's owner, Atlas Air, said the mechanical issues would be made. However, it was never proven what mechanical issues had to be made.
It's never been proven to this very day. And I'd like to know, like, if it was a mechanical issue, why not just say what it was?
You know, they sat on that tarmac for 24 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. They sat on that tarmac for that. I mean, I've heard plenty of stories of how, like, people are sat on tarmacs for 9 hours. I mean, an example, the plane ride from hell, they were delayed by like 9 hours on the plane, and they were so boozed up and pilled up the whole plane ride from hell fiasco happened. But for 24 hours, and it's just a mechanical issue, it doesn't pass the smell test. Because if it was 24 hours, they would have allowed them to leave the plane, on board to a new plane, or go to a hotel. So it doesn't really pass the smell test for me.
So the weird thing, when they're all stuck on that plane and they can't get back for SmackDown, so they have to use the roster. They didn't go, and they had to use the NXT roster, which comes into play at Survivor Series because NXT roster declared war on Raw and SmackDown, basically because they needed to fill that night's episode of SmackDown.
Yeah. Yeah, so I often wonder if they weren't used to that show, maybe we don't get NXT on that Survivor Series show.
It's the only one they've been on that I can remember.
Maybe 2020 if I remember correctly.
Think we'll ever see Survivor Series with all three brands?
Oh, I hope not. They tried to make bragging rights into the new Survivor Series. I hate those type of shows. I really do. Because, like I said, the brand split is garbage. But I wanted to go back a little bit with what Dave Meltzer said, because I got a quote that he once said about the situation in 2019. There was one superstar, Carl Anderson, who was left on the runway. Here's what was said with Dave Meltzer. I got the quote right here on my phone. It's funny how that happens. Yeah, you finish up your dates and then all of a sudden you're booked. It's interesting too because Carl Anderson said he'd never go back, but he did go back, which is true. Carl Anderson did go back. However, when they were on that trip and got held hostage, Carl got into trouble because with WWE, they were held hostage, and Carl Anderson's wife was like super concerned trying to find word and was like going on to Twitter with like what's going on, what's happening. Like even their own family members were concerned about this entire thing. And then when they come back and they actually get called into a meeting, apparently Carl Anderson's wife like got in trouble for that because she was talking about what was going on and her being nervous about what was going on in Saudi Arabia. Think about that for a second. Carl Anderson's wife is nervous. She's going on to social media like worried about what's going on with the Tarmac stuff. And she's basically getting told you shouldn't have done that. Like, you shouldn't have been talking. You should have been working with the people that you were held hostage. Like, it's crazy with how Carl Anderson's wife got scared and was talking about this. And then she was told by WWE or whoever it was that, oh, you shouldn't have talked about that. It's not a good idea. So it was clear that the family members were worried about that too. And with Carl Anderson's wife going on social media basically saying, I think they were held hostage. So there's something going on here that's being covered up. I seriously think that they were trying to cover this up.
I think they were hoping we would never find out, although we were going to find out the next night on SmackDown when they didn't show up. I also can't remember why the show was on a Thursday.
That didn't make any sense at all either. Like I don't know why they would put it on the Thursday and then the next day you have Friday Night SmackDown. That's just bad idea written all over it. Like, and then the next, I don't understand why the next day they would have to go back to America to film a new show. That's an insane travel schedule. But then it's the wrestling business. I've heard plenty of travel schedules. Like, there's one day you're in like Terry Gordy, I use an example. He would go to United States to wrestle, then back to Japan, and then to the United States, and then back to Japan. Like, it's crazy how these travel schedules are. What did WWE think was going to happen? Like, there was going to be a time where, like, something could happen, whether it was this, whether it was a weather issue, where their talent couldn't get there. They should not have had this show take place on a Thursday.
Now, I'm trying to remember. I can remember sitting down. I was watching it on my brand new television. I want to say it was snowing that night in Buffalo, too.
I don't think it was snowing at that time. At the time, Buffalo was... It's a very cold place to go to. But I don't remember if it was snowing at the time.
Do you know who got a promotion as a result of this?
Who?
Up until this point, Pat McAfee was a 205 live announcer. But due to the Tarmac, he had to help fill in on that episode of SmackDown.
That's true. Oh my God, that is true.
Because up until that point, him and Aiden English were the 205 live announcers, and they had to fill in on SmackDown. So McAfee, as a result, ended up getting a promotion out of it. Some might even say he's the voice of the WWE now.
I still think Michael Cole is right now. Corey Graves at the time, to me, is the voice. But Pat McAfee now he's great, man. Like, it's not just him as a commentator, it's him as a wrestler. He's very underrated.
Do you remember who filled in as the ring announcer on that episode of SmackDown?
I think it was either Renee Young or Kayla Braxton.
It was the only time that I know that Braxton was the ring announcer.
Yeah. That's the only, like, because she's normally backstage as the interviewer. But she was okay at ring announcing. I thought she did a solid job. But I just feel like this could have been so prevented, and I feel like WWE is absolutely into blame here because they should have, like, prepared that this might have happened. It's because Saudi Arabia has a history of doing this sort of thing where they're a very shady company. And saying that, I'm probably on Saudi Arabia's hit list now, but they are a very, very shady company. Country.
The weird thing is they didn't have one in 2019 due to COVID. But Crown Jewel 2021 was the first PLE to be on Peacock.
Yep. And I often wonder, too, that locker room going back, because they brought back some of the top talent on the private jet. I wonder, like, they have to be, like, they must have felt so upset that they were left behind. And this could have caused many people to walk out of the company if they so choose, because AEW was starting up at that time. And if those wrestlers walked out, which they obviously didn't because they thought WWE was number one and that AEW wouldn't be as big as it was, they're lucky that they didn't walk out because they had a good reason to after this Tarmac fiasco.
They had a good reason to walk out. I'm trying to remember. I think that was Fury's only time competing in the WWE. He might have done it one other time.
We talked Tyson Fury. I think there was one other. I don't know. Tyson Fury was not good at that show either. That match with Braun Strowman sucked. Oh my God, that was bad.
And then I believe it was the only time Cain Velasquez, thankfully, Vince tried to get him over.
Oh God, He tried sacrificing Kofi Kingston's world title reign for Cain Velasquez. They tried attaching him with Rey Mysterio too. Such a bit. They tried everything with Cain, and it didn't work out.
Do you remember that angle with Mysterio where he attacked Lesnar with the steel pipe?
Yes.
And they still couldn't get Cain over.
Oh God! Well, I don't want to. It's kind of a blessing in disguise knowing what happened to Cain Velasquez. If you guys don't know, Cain Velasquez is currently in jail for trying to kill. It was a guy who assaulted was it his daughter or
I want to say it was his son.
It was one of his family members. I can't remember who it was, but he decided to try to get after this guy, and in doing that, it resulted in someone else getting. It was either someone else was getting killed or shot or something like that, and he's now in jail. And he's. Did he get sentenced yet? I think he got sentenced to 4 years, if I remember.
Yeah, correctly. I think he got 4 years.
Yeah. Anyways, terrible what happened there, and I don't even want to imagine what he was thinking during that moment.
No, so I guess if I ever got a chance, I would want to ask Vince McMahon what actually happened. Was it Saudi Arabia's fault or was it Vince's fault? Was it both their fault? If Vince regrets it, although I don't think.
Oh, I don't think he regrets it. And here's the thing, too. Would Vince tell the truth? Because in the Mr. McMahon documentary, he basically says, there are plenty of stories I can tell, but I'm only going to tell you certain stories, because I want to. And there are plenty of times on that documentary where he straight up lies. Like, he once claimed that The Undertaker faked his concussion, that he wasn't concussed, he was just passed out, and that he was in shock for losing the streak. Really? Then why did you go to the hospital, Vince? You went to the hospital with him. But if I were to ask a question about the whole Crown Jewel stuff, I want to ask Kevin Dunn, because he was on the flight back. Him, Tyson Fury, I would like to ask, like, why were you brought back? Maybe Johnny Ace. Was Johnny Ace working with that company at the time?
He was employed. I don't know if he was active on screen.
Let me go look it up on Bang real quick. I'm pretty sure he was not employed, but like he was still working with the company.
Do you think any of this will come to light during the Janelle Grant case?
Oh, I don't think during the Janelle Grant case. I kind of wish it would, because I want to know more about the whys and what happened here. I could see Dark Side of the Ring doing an episode on the Crown Jewel 2019 Fiasco. Like it's sort of parallel to the Collision in Korea pay-per-view that WCW and New Japan did in 1995.
Oh, that pay-per-view was bad.
I disagree. I thought the pay-per-view was okay. It was just weird because the crowd was silent. Like, that was like one of the first shows where the crowd was so silent. Because in North Korea, they didn't even know what was going on at the time. I just looked it up. Johnny Ace was working with the company. He returned in 2021, and he was just a road agent at the time. So he wasn't in talent relations, but he was a road agent. So Johnny Ace was working with that company. I would like to ask him, since he's now more vocal about being against Vince. I mean, he just flipped on him in the Janelle Grant case. I would love to know more what that guy has to say about it. But yeah, in conclusion, with the whole Crown Jewel 2019 fiasco, luckily it got solved. The wrestlers were able to fly back, not in time for the SmackDown show, but for Raw. But I think the biggest lesson to be learned, in my opinion, is WWE needs to create backup plans if they're going to go internationally, and they're going to go into markets like Crown Jewel or other markets, like even when they were doing tribute to the troops at Cruiserweight. They need to have like backup plans for stuff that could happen, but they just didn't. They had way too much trust in the Crown, in the Saudi government in Saudi Arabia, and one disagreement on pay and negotiations, and they basically held a majority of your employees hostage in a different country. This could have been so much worse. And imagine if I often wonder, what if this dragged on for more than a day, maybe weeks, maybe months, and whatever happened. This could have been a case where the U.S. government had to get involved, and it would have been so much worse if Saudi Arabia kept them for long. What do you think would have happened if that happened?
I'm glad that didn't happen. I'm glad we'll never know what would have happened. But everybody who tuned in to watch this video, this is the first of a multi-video series. Also, wherever you watch this at, make sure you tune in Saturday, June 28th, I believe at noon. It might be 1 in the afternoon, for this year's Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia. And if you're a WWE superstar, always make sure you have an alternate way to get back.
I mean, yeah, it might be a little expensive, but make sure you have a alternate plan. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. We're going to have more Tales from the Wrestling History Book episode. We're going to make this a weekly thing, and I'm excited for the next article. But I want to ask this question to anyone watching. What are your thoughts on the Crown Jewel 2019 Tarmac Fiasco? What are your stories about the entire event? Because we like to learn. I mean, we're going to do this we're aiming for 30 minutes of video. We'd love to learn more from everyone else that watches this. You know, I think it's more important for us to learn. What do you think of the Crown Jewel Fiasco? What could WWE have done differently? And do you think that this would make a good case for Dark Side of the Ring to do an episode on? Because I absolutely believe that.
And as always, for more wrestling and other sports content, check out StadiumRant.com.
Yep, StadiumRant.com. We write pro wrestling, we write football, we write hockey, we write basketball, any type of sport out there. Heck, UFC we even are starting to write now. Come on, come watch us. Make sure you hit the like button, the subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications. You'll get to know when our streams are, any videos we upload. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day to watch this video. We'll be back next week with another episode. And if you're not down with that, we got 2 words for you.
Acknowledge us.